Hi guys, we just got back from our gym session. Just before our pre-season starts with Ben. Ben plays rugby. Just signed for Oldham, so yeah, let's get straight into it. So we went through a warm-up, some banded rotations, a couple of minutes on the assault bike, just to get a bit of blood flow and movement in the legs and upper body as well. We went into some plyometrics to get the legs moving, get the central nervous system a little bit more awake.
And it's always good to warm up in it, especially with an explosive movement like that.
Yeah, so we started with a pause squat, and then we went into the box jump, and then we make sure we stick our landing as well. And then we went into box jumps with a broad jump as well. Getting that plyometric power is super important, and it correlates really well into rugby as well. So you need to be super powerful going into tackles, when you're carrying the ball, all that sort of stuff, don't you? So you have to be like fast and strong, and they do overlap quite well. That's why this session plan, this is why I put this session plan together. We were also working on like ground contact time, so being super hot off the blocks, rather than being dead lazy with it, landing, taking a second and then jumping. It's like fast into that movement, so that's where it correlates really well into both the sports. With your training, Ben, how does this look in terms of, is this something you've done before with box jumps and the strength? What's your typical week like with your training?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've done before, like plyometrics and that explosive power. It's like one of the biggest things in rugby. So at the moment, I'm like in my off-season phase. It's all just about building like a good base with all your strength, long runs, stuff like that. Just getting ready for the pre-season.
Going on to like the first exercise, we were on the push press, so super explosive, really strong shoulders, arms, keeping that core tight. And then through the legs, quads, glutes, hammies, all firing up through the bar into that transition of the press at the top. We can see how my form slightly differs to Ben's, where I'm looking at full range of motion, locking out. Typically when I first started going to the gym, I was like watching loads of videos on bodybuilding and keeping like time under tension and full range of motion, whereas Ben's like hammering the speed aspect of it. And that's where you can see he's way more powerful, just naturally, and through all of his training, through your size as well. Like you can just move weight way quicker with the form you've got. So that's where you can see like the difference between my training and your training and how it looks in a push press. We went from a push press, didn't we, into
Bent over rows.
Oh yeah, bent over rows. Is this something you've done before?
Yeah, it is. We do it quite a lot. Like that pulling movement is quite important. Like strength and like having a strong back, and then that pulling movement is also important in rugby. So yeah, I've done it before.
Yeah, you can see in the movement, you've got to really make sure you're powerful on that way up, and we're going for 6 reps, so both exercises are 3 sets of 6 reps. I think we ended up doing 4 sets with one warm-up. I went for like a 60 kilogram bar, going into a 70 kilogram bar at the end, and Ben was moving 80 kilos fairly comfortably, you can see on the video, and you could probably go a little bit heavier, probably 90. I don't know, what would you typically go for? I know I was setting up the weights for you, but
I think as close as you can get to your body weight is probably a good aim to get to. So for me, that's like 110 kilograms.
Yeah,
so just below that today. But in a tough session like this, you don't want to be pushing it too much.
Yeah. So we're going from one straight into the other. If you're not familiar with like supersets, it's like trying to be as fast from one exercise straight into the other. It just means you can get a little bit more done, and it makes it a little bit more intense as well. So from one vertical pushing movement, being the push press, into one horizontal pulling movement. Then you can see on our next superset where we're pressing horizontally in the dumbbell bench press into a vertical pulling movement. So we've got all movements across 4 exercises, and they're all for strength, and they all are multi-joint movements, meaning you're hitting loads of muscles at once. So it does fatigue the body, and I was sweating after like 2 sets of that first one. And I guess when you are training, you want to just get as much done in a short period of time. You don't want to train for like hours and hours and hours, where like that's what typically bodybuilding is. Like you do intricate movements for your side delt and your rear delt, and like you spend half an hour just doing a bit of your shoulders, when we've hit essentially front and side delt really well, traps, lats, bloody like every basically muscle in the upper body in the space of about 25 minutes, and a bodybuilder would probably take an hour and a half. That's where you're looking at different training styles.
Yeah, and I think like HYROX and especially rugby league, they're both continuous like sports and exercises. So supersetting it, you're not getting that rest, which is like specific to both movements, both exercises.
Both sports as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we go on to looking at the finisher at the end, having about a minute, but we end up only having about 30 seconds rest. That's exactly what rugby league is. You go in, you hit that tackle, you've got to get back, and within 10, 20 seconds, you're going again pretty high intense.
Yeah.
Whether you're defending or attacking, it's both very high intense, and HYROX is 0 rest if you can, through 8 runs, split up with 8 exercises. And if you're able to keep that intensity and increase the weight and maybe slightly increase the reps, you're building really well into both sports. You managed to work up to 38s, but they're looking like, looking back at the video, you just said it looked easier than it felt.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems like that's the case.
Yeah, I have done heavier in the past, but it was a tough session this, so I was quite happy to get 38s up. Yeah,
like if someone's coming towards you, this like 100 kilo guy, and you're running with the ball, and you're running in like a line past him, I'm like, not rugby-esque at all, am I, with the way I speak? But like, some of the videos that I've seen of you playing, and when I watch you play, you've got to like, single arm press a 100 kilo guy who's trying to wrestle you to the floor. So you've got to be able to, with both individual arms. That's why I chose the dumbbells, because you've got to have both arms individually strong. The barbell's excellent and super traditional with strength training and nice and easy to set up, but you've got to have the individual strength as well as, you know, keeping your core tight always is super important with that movement. And then we went into the vertical pull, which again is super important to be strong in with HYROX, because you're getting that pull with the sled and the ski erg as well. You know, the first station, you're pulling down like this the whole time. It's exactly the same thing, but you do a kilometre of it. It can take you anywhere between 3 and, I don't know, whatever someone might get doing it slowly, 8 minutes. So you do need to make sure your lats can take powerful strides downwards, as well as being able to do it for a long period of time. But that's when you go into like muscular endurance rather than just strength. But having that power in the downward phase, super important. And I think that correlates well with the rugby when you're trying to bring people to the ground again. And we went into doing it weighted as well, which when we said we were going to do chin-ups, you were a bit like, oh, I don't know how I'll do with that. We managed to do body weight for 6, and we went up to doing 3.5, nearly 4 reps with 10 kilos. So being 110 kilos anyway, that's massive achievement. If you get anyone who, like in a field of the random person who's 110 kilos, try and get them to hang on the bar for more than 5 seconds. They aren't going to be able to do it. So that's when your rugby training and your physiology of the fact that you've got muscle mass and it's not all just body fat, that's why you're able to do it. Grip strength as well in this one, super important, right? You've got to be able to hold not only the ball, that's obviously super important, but if you're tackling someone, you want to be able to like hold the person whilst you're tackling them.
Yeah, it's all about control. If you're holding someone that's trying to get away from you, having that good grip strength to keep control of them all the way to the floor is massively important. Yeah,
and it could be the try-saving movement. If you're able to grab someone's like legs and as they're about to get to the line, I suppose that's one way of looking at it as well. You got to be able to hold that tight. I think having a tight core in rugby is so important.
Yeah, it is.
If someone's coming to snap you in half.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to.
It's all like the twisting and stuff like that. You've got to be. It's massively important to be strong in your core. If you're winning the rucks, tackling, everything like that. It's it's massive.
So yeah, we went in for a 250 metre row, and we were rowing at a 1:30 pace, and it took us 45 seconds, if my maths is right. Yeah. I don't know why I said that. It was right, because it said it on the fucking screen. So we rowed for 45 seconds, 250 metres, which nice and intense. It's faster than I would row in, for a full kilometre. So nice and intense, then straight into 50 metres each. So you can see we're at one end of the track, pulling for 10, resting while the other person pulls, and doing 50 metres each, so doing a total of 100 metres between us. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was good. It was good to it was continuous, so we were both on the rowers together and then straight into the sled pull. So yeah, I liked it. It was
about, how long did it take to pull from one side to the other? 15 seconds maybe?
Yeah, we set 5 minutes, 4 minutes, was it 4 minutes or 5 minutes rest?
We set a 5-minute rest time, and it was ticking over to about 40 to 30 seconds when we were coming back to the row. So we only had 30 seconds rest from a max effort pull back into that max effort row, so it was super intense. I was aiming for a minute, but we were obviously a little bit slower with the pulls. I looked at, so my error in that was, I looked at what time it would take me to do a pull, and I didn't account for when I'm doing it on my own, I then run directly to the side and start pulling, and that's my next meters ticking off. Whereas I had to wait for you, not that it took ages, but it is slightly longer for someone to do the same pull back compared to me just running and starting pulling again. So it was like a couple of seconds, maybe 5 seconds different. But our track is 10 meters, so we were pulling 10 meters, resting whilst the other partner did the 10 meters. So it just did take that extra 30 seconds or so whilst we were doing that. We just have to keep like ticking through them and try not to stop at all. Like once you've done your full pull and walked back to the line, it's then essentially walking back as quick as you can, getting a tight grip, and then start walking. And now that might be another reason why we were a bit slower. The sled did keep going like on an angle off the sled, and then Jack had to shove it back on again, so thanks for that. And then lifting it back into the place and all this, like it's not exactly right where we're doing it at the gym group. Obviously in an official HYROX it's going to go in a perfect straight line because it's clipped into the centre of the thing, and we were just wrapping around a rope, and it was obviously like the angle of it weren't perfect. And then going into a second row straight after that at 1:30 pace, it's pretty brutal. Feeling it, giving yourself about 5 or 10 seconds before getting up, unstrapping your feet and going straight into the pull again. So it's like exactly perfect for your training and my training. That's why I think HYROX is getting super popular. Like people from all sports essentially are going into it.
Definitely that link to like different sports like rugby, football, it's gonna, like anyone can take part in it really, and they're only going to improve and get fitter by doing sessions like this one.
So hopefully we're getting Ben down to one of the classes that we run. It's a HYROX style class. We run them Mondays and Tuesdays, and they're fully booked at the moment, and we're hoping if there's enough demand for it, we're going to get a third class. Great to have you down doing a session. Hopefully get you down again soon before you start your full pre-season, because is that going to be pretty hectic once that starts, you think?
Yeah, training 3-4 times a week then, so I probably won't have the opportunity to come down.
Yeah, so hopefully over the next couple of weeks we might get another one in. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. Cheers, it was tough.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.